there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel or welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing my September TBR. It's crazy that it is already September and that we are getting into the fall season. I know where I live, the temperatures are cooling down a little bit, the humidity is lessening, and it just is starting to smell like fall. So when I was curating this list, I really actually had some fall reads in mind. But before we go ahead and get on into the books, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button to show my channel a little bit of support. The first book is one that I'm currently reading, and that is Raven Cry by Ed McDonald. This is book 2 in the Raven's Mark series. I might finish this by the time September starts. We'll see. I'm currently on page 90, which is chapter 8, so I've read a decent amount. But this is the sequel to Blackwing, which I do have a full review for, which I will link up in the cards. In this book, we are following Ryholt, and Ryholt is the captain of this group of kind of like mercenaries known as the Blackwing, and they hunt sorcerers, spies, evil beings that come from this toxic wasteland known as the Misery, and he actually also serves this very powerful sorcerer known as the Nameless. And he gets a cryptic message from the Nameless, known as Crowfoot, one day that something had been stolen from Crowfoot's vault, which is heavily warded and no one should be able to get in there. So Ryhall and his group of Blackwing have to go investigate what happened and see who could possibly steal this artifact and what they plan on doing with it. As of right now, I'm really enjoying this book. There are remnants from the first book that are playing into Raven Cry, especially with what we learned in the first book and the disappearance of one of the main characters in the first book, because there have been visions of her from not only Ryholt but several people in this city. So definitely a good continuation of the story, and I'm very much looking to finish it. So after I finished Raven Cry, I do plan on reading the third and final book, which is Crowfall. So I haven't even read the synopsis of this yet because I don't want it to spoil what happens in book 2. So my goal is to have the Raven's Mark trilogy finished in the month of September. Next, I plan on finishing A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. This is the third book in her spinoff series to Caraval, Once Upon a Broken Heart. And I started reading this, I want to say maybe last month. I only got 30 pages into it, and I think one of my library holds became available, so I put this down and just haven't picked it up again. But I love Stephanie Garber's books because they are so easy to read. They are so whimsical. The worlds that she creates are just so fun and magical, and they're just easy, fun reads. But in this series, we are following a main character named Evangeline, and Evangeline found her way to what is known as the North, which is like this magical part of the world, and she ends up married to a prince. So all of her dreams came true, but all of the events that happened in the first two books, Evangeline wakes up in this book and has no recollection of anything that had happened. She knows who her husband is, she knows who the prince is, but she can't remember anything. And it all has to do with this fate known as Jax. And fates are like these mischievous, magical beings in this series, and we don't yet know if he's good or bad or whose side that he is on. And there is this romantic tension between Jax and Evangeline. But in this book, her husband, the prince, does not want her to find out how he was involved in the loss of her memories. So we'll see what Evangeline does in the final conclusion to the series. Then I want to pick up Anatomy, a Love Story by Sana Swartz. This book for me just has fall, creepy, spooky vibes, which is why I want to read it. But this is a duology, and it has been described as like a gothic full of mystery with a little bit of romance, which sounds right up my alley. But in this book, we're following a main character named Hazel, and she wants to be a surgeon. But unfortunately, during this time period, women were not allowed to become surgeons. So when the doctor who is like leading the program kicks her out, but then he makes a deal with her that if she can pass her medical exams, then he will let her into the program, but he won't like let her have access to any of the resources to study for the exam. So she ends up partnering with a resurrection man known as Jack. But what the two of them uncover is that there are people going around who are digging up graves, exhuming the bodies, and they have a dark, sinister reason for doing this. And there is also a violent plague that has resurfaced that is kind of going through Edinburgh where they both live. So the two of them have to work together to figure out who's stealing these bodies and why, and as well as help Hazel to pass her exams. And then there is a budding romance that happens between the two of them. So the whole thing with working on dead bodies and missing dead bodies and her studying to be a surgeon in Edinburgh, just, I don't know, it just gives me creepy, dark gothic vibes, which is exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm excited to read it. Then I plan on picking up The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. This is the last Riley Sager book that I need to read. Read everything else, and this is actually the only one of his that I own. But in this book, we are following a girl named Emma, and Emma went to this camp known as Camp Nightingale, and one night, all of the girls in her cabin went missing except for her, and the last thing Emma remembers is one of the other girls ushering all the other girls but Emma out of the cabin, and then no one ever saw them again. Fast forward years later, Emma is now an adult. She's an artist, and her paintings are famous for their dark, mysterious atmospheres. A wealthy patron of Emma's, who also happens to be the owner of Camp Nightingale, implores her to come back to the camp to teach painting for like a summer. And Emma actually goes. And while she's there, she decides to dig into what actually happens that night and the real truth behind the disappearance of the girls in her cabin. I have no doubt that this book will be a page turner, as all Riley Sager books are, so I'm definitely excited to give it a go. And then I would like to start reading The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. This is a dense, thick classic, and it's a classic ghost story. I know for a fact I'm not going to finish it in September. What I'm thinking about doing is just reading it concurrently with my other books, just a little bit at a time and till it's done. But this is a book I've always wanted to read, and its size has always daunted me. In addition, classics tend to be written with, from my experience, longer sentence structures, so they do tend to take a little bit more effort for me to read. But I'm just going to bite the bullet and see if I can get this done by the end of October. But in this book, we are following a man named Hartright, and he has this ghostly encounter with this woman dressed entirely in white. After this ghostly encounter, Hartright, who is a drawing instructor, divulges to his pupils what he actually saw. Determined to learn all that they can about the woman and wife, Hartright and his pupils find themselves drawn into a vortex of kidnapping, murder, poison, and conspiracy. This book was written in 1860 and is coined as one of the best classic ghost stories, so I'm super excited to finally get into it. Alright, y'all, that is it for my September TBR. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books or what you thought of them or what you plan on reading in the month of September. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in another video soon. Goodbye!